Welcome to my channel, everyone. This video is for a baby shower ribbon pin or mum. If you haven't done so, please subscribe and don't forget to tap that bell for notifications on my uploads and live streams. I'm using Grosgrain and wired ribbons, and I cut them at 12 inches in length. This is for my streamers. The backer I'm using is 4 inches. This is just a ribbon spool end, so you save those when you use up your ribbons. Just save those ends and you can use them for projects like this. Be sure to take the wire out of your ribbons. Now I stacked these up and decided how I wanted to layer them before attaching them, so to make sure that I had enough and to make sure that I liked how they were layered. So I always start with the center one, and you can hot glue or staple these on, and I'm using my mat as kind of a guide to make sure that I'm attaching it pretty straight there in the middle, lined up with that center hole. And I'm using my good stapler. This is my mum making stapler. It's a must if you make any kind of mums or anything, and they're not expensive either. I've got a link in my description for Amazon for this, or you can go to my Amazon shop and it's under Homecoming Mum Supplies. Okay, so I always like to do like a dovetail or a V shape there at the end and make them look pretty. You can do slants and different things too, but that middle one I almost always cut a dovetail. So I just want to layer the next two, and I like to make sure that they are layered on top of each other. The reason for that is when they're wearing it, you're not going to have those gaps in between the ribbons, so it makes it look fuller. So I go from one end to the other. So I start with the middle ribbon, and then I do a ribbon on the left and right of that, and then just keep building it from there. And take your time and make sure that you're layering them well and trimming those ends. I'm going to give all of these ends a dovetail, and I'm alternating with the plain pink and then the wired ribbons with the designs and the letters. Those are just like a kind of a plaid pink and white, and then these have baby girl and all kinds of script on them. There's a little bit of gap, but I'm going to also add some smaller ribbons in between there as well. So I've got some glitter and then some ginghams as well. And it's good to hold this up as you're building it, to hold it up and see how those ribbons are going to lay, because this is going to be worn and it's going to be upright, so it's not going to be worn flat, of course. So if you keep holding it up, you'll see how those ribbons fall and you'll kind of know how to stack them. You can glue these smaller ribbons to the backer, or you can staple them, or you can glue and staple them, whichever you prefer. But again, I like to lay them out and decide where I want them before I start attaching them. So just think about that before you start attaching them. And then I like to heat seal these as well. It just depends on the type of ribbon. One that's going to fray really easily, and I'm just getting it close to the edge there, just really quickly running it along there. So here's how the ribbons are looking, and here is all the trinkets that I have, so all the possibilities. I have a ton of them, and they're so cute. I just love all these little trinkets, and they come in different colors, but I'm going to stick to a pink and white pattern on this particular baby shower mum. So now I'm taking some thin ribbons. This one right here is a Grosgrain. So just running one of those little trinkets through it, hot gluing it together, and then you can hot glue it to your backer. So you just make a cute little loop there with your ribbon to hang it off of. You could tie the ribbon at the end as well. I'm going to show some different techniques. I'm not going to do them all the same. I'm going to hang this one off to the edge. Now here's a soft satin ribbon. So I like to use different thin ribbons to hang my trinkets off of. It just makes it look, to me it just makes it look better. It gives it some more dimension, different textures and such and such. So I did 3 of these ribbons with trinkets, made them into loops, and now I'm going to just glue some of these trinkets to some of the bigger ribbons. So like that little rattle and that little safety pin. Now here is some sheer or organza ribbon. It's really pretty ribbon. It's got like, it just picks up different colors around it, so it's real shiny and real pretty. So I'm going to hang one with that ribbon as well. I like to add little ribbons like that as well. These little sheer and organza ribbons are just really, really pretty, and they just add a nice soft touch to your projects. Again, I like to hold these up as I'm making them and just kind of see how everything is flowing and how it's going to hang. Now I'm taking that same pretty ribbon and I'm just going to make a little bow. So this can be a little difficult when you're working with a short piece of ribbon. Just kind of have some patience with it though. Just going to tie it like kind of like you would a shoelace basically. But those aren't very big, so you have to, it's not real easy to make your little loops. Just have a little patience and work with it, and you'll eventually get the little bow to look cute. And it just adds another little soft, delicate touch to your project or your mum. Okay, so now I'm going to work on the top backer, and I'm using, this is the Grosgrain ribbon again. I cut it at 5 inches in length. If you're making a full-size mum, you do 6 inches, but with the small mini size or pee-wee size, I always do 5 inches. So I am going to start with these 4 loops with the Grosgrain ribbons, and I'm going to attach them in a north, south, east, and west pattern on this backer. I just like to do it in that pattern. It's easier for me to get them on evenly and straight if you're going for this design where you want the loops evenly placed around the backer. I have some other tutorials where I randomly place backers as well, or loops on backers as well. So it just depends on the look you're going for. And then just try to get them as straight and as even as possible. And that's why I use the scissors as well. I kind of line it up in the middle, and so I can tell if my loop is pretty centered up or not. And then once you get the first 2 on, it's a little bit easier to add the other 2. So you can kind of tell if it's in between the first 2 and across from the other one. But I'm also making sure that I'm attaching them the same distance off or in the backer, so I don't have one loop that's too far out and one that's too far in. So now I'm going to cut these wired ribbons. Again, I'm cutting it at 5 inches in length, and just cut as many as you need. When you use these thin wired ribbons or any of these wired ribbons, of course you want to take the wires out again. You don't want the wires on these projects. And then I like to use them with an acetate ribbon as well. It just helps them to hold their loop or their shape for the loop better. It just makes a better looking loop, so I would suggest that as well. So I did 2 of the other pattern of wired ribbon, the plaid one, and then this one with the script. And then here's my acetate ribbons that are about the same width. This is 1.3 inch. And then I believe the wired ribbons are 1.5 inch width, so they're a little bit longer, but or wider. That's okay. See, it's okay. I just need that acetate ribbon on the inside to really form that good loop. And then I like to staple them and get them all stapled first, and then start attaching them to your backer. So with these loops, you just want to go in between the loops that you already did and just try to evenly place them between those loops. And that one I did too far in, I believe, and so I just pulled it off real quick and reattached it, so it was very easy. And I usually staple this kind of stuff, especially when I'm making homecoming mums, but I just wanted to show how easy you can do it with hot glue as well. Now I'm taking that pretty sparkle ribbon, glitter ribbon, and just hot gluing it to the plain pink Grosgrain ribbon. And you can do this before you attach the loops, but I usually do it afterwards. I mean, not always, it just depends on my mood actually. But if you actually do it this way, you use less ribbon, less of that glitter ribbon, so you'll actually save some money there. You'll save some ribbon, you won't use as much. So there they are. See, it just adds some sparkle and some pretty, and then you can go to your other solid ribbons and add, you could do the gingham if you wanted to, but I did sparkle and all of that. So now I'm going to add some tubing. You guys know, if you watch me, you know I love to add tubing to backers and stuff. It just adds another fun texture. It's just something different and unique and fun. and more people are starting to use it, but everybody's looks different, so I think it's just a fun thing to add, and you can do so much with it. And it's inexpensive, and it doesn't take much, so it's, again, I'm all for that. If you can find something unique and fun to add to your mums, and it's not crazy expensive or goes a long ways, I am all for that. And this is like a white or an iridescent, so you could use it with any colors. So if you just wanted to start out with this color to use with any kind of mums or any kind of ribbon pins you're making, you could use this with anything. And so I'm just making loops and stapling them on. You want to use several staples to make sure that you got it connected good. Now I'm going to show you a different technique. Now I'm taking a chenille stem, and this is a metallic iridescent chenille stem. You get different looks from whatever color of chenille stem you put with the tubing. So you could take one color tubing and like 3 different colors of chenille stems and get completely different looks from it. So if you run that through your tubing and cut it off, then you can make shapes out of it with that chenille stem in there. So I'm going to make a little double heart. A lot of times I make like a big heart. You can make triangles and squares and little squigglies. I do all different kinds of shapes. So just look for my videos and you'll see I have got tons of videos where I'm using this stuff. So just look under like the playlist Homecoming Mom Making or the backer tutorials. So again, this one I'm just doing these little double hearts. It's just a fun little double heart. Give it something unique and different. So instead of doing like loops all around the backer, I'm changing it up and doing loops on one side, and then on the opposite side I did loops, and now I did double hearts in the space between, and I'm going to do another double heart on the other side. And you're not going to be able to see them real well. You will be able to see them, especially, you know, if you're adding a flower. With this I am not, but if you're doing like a homecoming mum where you're adding a flower, sometimes you got to be careful that you're going to end up covering it up with the flower. So you can always put the flower on and just see how it looks before you start attaching things. Now what I'm doing here is I'm ready to attach it to the streamers. So what I do is I add 2 staples to the very top. You want to line those 2 backers up and make sure they're exactly lined up and it's where you want it. Then add 2 staples to the top. What those 2 staples do is it keeps it from those backers from moving as you're gluing it, because there's nothing like starting to glue them together and then realize that they slid apart a little bit and then they end up stuck together but they're off-centered. I've done that in the past. It is not fun to deal with. So if you add the 2 staples on top before you start gluing them together, you will not have that issue at all. So please do that. The reason for the 2 staples is because if you just do one, it can still move around. I learned that the hard way as well. So learn from the mistakes that I have made, and please do those 2 staples at the top. You will be so much happier, and you can see how it's going to look. And if you don't like it, guess what? You can pull it apart and then move it around and start over. And then after I get it glued, I go around. As you can see, I'm going around and stapling them together as well as best I can. I want to make sure these backers are secure and tight together. You don't want any gaps between your backers. So no gaps. Make sure that they are snug together. You don't want anybody to be able to see in between those backers. What I'm doing here is I have decided that I did not like the ribbons. They just did not feel really full to me. It was missing something, so I decided to go back and add this wide acetate ribbon to the very back. It's not a big deal. It's going to be an easy fix, so I just want to make sure that I'm putting them on upside down. That way when I turn the mum over, they are right side. And all I'm going to do is glue these to the very back. Usually when I make a mum, I start out with these ribbons as my ribbon streamers, but since I was doing the baby shower and I wanted it more ribbon pin like than mum like, I kind of wanted it in between, so I decided against these ribbons, but I really missed them. I felt like it needed them, so now I'm attaching them. So I started with the very middle one and then very right and very left one, and then I'm going to go in between those and fill that in. So all this does is just really makes it look fuller and thicker. It's just going to give it a better professional look to me. And then I went over and stapled them as well. I've got another piece of Grosgrain, 15 inches in length, and I just guessed on the length. And so I'm going to trim up the ends and heat seal them as well so they don't fray. But what I'm going to do is make a little ruffle, circle ruffle for the center of the top backer. Since I'm not using a flower, I need to add some more pretty things and cover up that middle part where the loops don't touch. So normally you'd have a flower if you were doing a mum and that would cover it up, but since I'm not, I need to think outside the box and do some different things. So you can do like tulle puffs, you could add feathers, there's so much you could do. And then of course you could do other flowers besides the mum flower. You could do daisies and stuff like that. So I'm just gluing this just every, like, I don't even know if it's not even every inch, maybe every half inch, and just making a little ruffle. It was very, very simple to do. Now I'm almost at the very end, so I'm going to make one last little ruffle, and then I am going to fold over the two ends. So again, I want to make sure that the ends look really nice and clean. So I've just added some hot glue and I'm just folding it over as little amount as I possibly can there, and making sure that that's where I folded it over, that it's on the back side, so we don't have to worry about any fraying or any ugliness on the front there. So now I'm going to glue the two ends together so it makes a nice little circle, and then I'm going to lay it on the mum backer and just kind of see where I need it. The only problem here is you see, you know, there's a circle in the center, an open circle, and then there's open circle on the backers. So I do have that to worry about, and I will show you my little fix for that. So I'm just hot gluing right around that circle, and then I'm going to attach that there. Make sure you got the pretty side up, and then you just want to tap it down all around. And I don't want it glued like all the, you know, I just wanted the centermost part glued down because I want it kind of ruffled up. I want it kind of open there on the outer part. See how cute that is? I just added something, another nice little texture, fun thing, and it was very simple to make. Okay, so now I'm going to attach a little loop on the top back, and this is going to be how they wear it, how they hang it. So I'm just making this nice little loop, and you can make it as big or as small as you want, and then you can take either a straight pin or a safety pin and give to them so they can pin it to their shirt. And you can also glue, they make the little pins that glue to the very back of these that open and close. You can also do that as well. Now I'm taking just a little scrap piece of white ribbon and covering that hole up on the back side before I add my last backer. So that just covers up that hole, and then so I'm just taking another white ribbon spool in. I'm taking a really clean, pretty one that doesn't have any, you know, mistakes on it, no writing, no labels, no nothing. You want a clean one, and I'm gluing that to the very back side. So you want that to look really clean, and that's just covering up all the mess, the staples, whatever. You just want that nice clean back. That way it's not snagging on their shirt or anything. Now I'm going to make a cute little bow for the front, middle, and I'm just kind of eyeballing how big I want to make that and then cutting the ribbon. And this is just like a cheer bow design, really simple. And I'm going to go ahead and cut the other wired ribbon as well, and I'm going to back them together. That way when I make the bow, you'll be able to see both ribbons. And that's about 18 inches. So to fold a cheer bow, it's very simple. Just find your center, just fold over both ends like I'm doing here. Since I've got two ribbons back to back, it does make it a little bit more difficult, but it's still a really simple bow to make. And you just kind of want to maneuver those tails and loops kind of turn them in a little bit so it makes the loops more, I don't know how to say it, but more loopy, I guess. They stand out more. So you want to give them that little twist like I did there, and then just ruffle the center, or gather the center there in the middle, and then you can take a chenille stem and wrap around the center if you want. And I like to kind of play with it and make sure that I got the loops looking really, really good and the tails looking really, really good. So that's why I'm really messing with it, especially since it's going to be the center point of the little ribbon pin or mum. You want it to look really good. And again, just gather that in the center. Just like that. You can just pinch it in and pinch it out. It's really simple. Pinch in, pinch out. Now it's nice and gathered. And then take your chenille stem and wrap it around really tightly around the center. Give it a couple of good twists. And then you just want to cut that off pretty short because I'm not going to need to attach those to anything. I'm just going to be gluing that to the center. And you kind of have to mess with your bow a little bit after you tie it off. Get the loops to look good and the tails to look good. So just kind of mess with it a little bit until you got it looking just like you want to. And now I'm going to cut dovetails at the ends of my ribbons, or V shape, whatever you want to call it. So just fold those ribbons over and then use your scissors and cut up at an angle, and it just makes that nice little dovetail. Gives that a really pretty look. And I'm taking another small piece of Grosgrain ribbon, folding it over. You see I'm folding it over, making kind of a rectangular shape, and I'm just going to glue that to the center, and that's how I covered up that hole in the center, because even with the bow you're going to be able to see it a little bit. So now I'm just going to glue that bow to the center. Very simple. Hold it down until it dries, because you don't want it falling off or coming loose. And that bow it was just a cute, pretty little bow. Super simple. And I like that I doubled it up because, you know, you can see on the inside, and so doubling it up you can see both ribbons. But when you double them up, you want to make sure that one is facing out, and that both ribbons are facing out, and that the inner part of the ribbons are back to back. So just gluing everywhere I think it needs a little glue. And now I'm going to add this big rattle to the center. It says it's a girl, because I thought that would be a fun thing for the center too. That's my little focal point, just right there in the middle of the mum flower. So now I'm going to add some nice little bows. These are going to be some fun little delicate easy bows. This is sheer or organza ribbon, whatever you call it. This ribbon came from the Dollar Tree. It's very inexpensive, but again it's shiny and sheer and it's really pretty. And you just make some loops out of it, however big you want to make these. They're very simple. You can't form these loops very well with sheer ribbons. They don't have wires in them or anything, so just do the best you can. Don't mess with them too much. They're not going to be perfect. Just make some loops and then tie it off in the center, and then cut your ends. I just, usually cut like a little slant on the ends and make them look nice and pretty, but if you do mess with it, it is going to fray a little bit. So again, these loops aren't perfect. You cannot get loops from sheer ribbons to look perfect, so just kind of make them and don't mess with them too much. And I think I did 4 loops and 2 tails, so it's not very big at all, and I'm just tying it to that rattle using that chenille stem. If you want to know where I got these chenille stems, these iridescent ones, I actually ordered them from Amazon. So they're not easy to find. I'm not sure. Hobby Lobby has a bunch of chenille stems, but I don't know if they have that color or not. I haven't actually looked for it, so I don't know. So I'm going to add some delicate, pretty flower diamond wrap. You can cut them off individually. You can cut them off into strands. I love this stuff. So it just adds some little bling, and it's delicate and fun and pretty. So just add a few of those here and there to make it, a little blingy and a little, just more texture, more fun. just whatever you can do to keep adding to it and just add some pretty things. And I made another little bow just like that first one that I put on the rattle, and that one's just going to go on the ribbon, and then a third one, just I made 3 of them identical with that sheer ribbon. And it is a light pink color. I know it's kind of hard to tell from the video, but it is a light pink. They do have it in white as well. They have all different colors, so you can get all different colors, and they're so inexpensive. And that was actually a 4th one there that I added to the center. So I got 3 on the streamers and 1 on the upper part. So I love to add little bows. I think that just adds something too. And you can see adding those ribbons from on the back really helped with the streamers. So here's some pictures of it finished. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful and inspirational. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please comment, share, like, subscribe. Please be kind with your comments. Please be kind to others. Happy crafting and happy mum making, everyone.